Hello there, welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster with Will Carey. I'm your host. First off, I want to thank everybody who came out to David Lawson and I's show at Bunga's Den on February 5th, the rescheduled date from when Winter Storm Jonas blew through. We were able to pack out the back room of Bunga's Den, a bar that I was fired from 5 years ago when I first moved to New York City. And I felt very, very good about the show. It is the third time I've done my solo storytelling show, and that was the tightest it had been, and I'm eager to keep working on it. And if anyone is curious, the next time I'm going to be doing my show, which is currently titled Laughing Through the Sad, I'm going to be doing it April 2nd at the Pine Box Rock Shop in Bushwick. You can check my website, willcareyisfunny.com, for more details. You can also check Pinebox's website. It's going to be a free show because I'm still working it out, getting it ready, but I'm really excited about this project that I'm working on. My guest today on the show is one of my oldest friends in comedy. My guest on the show today is comedian Kevin Froleiks. Kevin's one of the first guys that I really met and kind of had a rapport with when I moved to New York. The first time I actually met him, like I would see him in passing, but I didn't really know him. I can't remember the name of the theater. It's some theater on the Lower East Side, and I was going to see that Conan O'Brien documentary, Can't Stop, and I noticed him and his girlfriend, and his girlfriend came over and introduced herself to me, and I introduced myself, and then that's when our friendship started, and me and Kevin's friendship started. And I later learned that he didn't know my name, and that was his way of finding out what my name was. And Kevin's like one of the guys that I've worked with a lot. Like we actually, about 3 years ago now at this point, we collaborated on a web series. I think we made about 38 parts overall called The Worst Landlord. It's still available on YouTube. If you're curious, you can check youtube.com/theworstlandlord and see what we made. And I'm going to share my conversation that we had where we talked about comedy, sketch, family, and just the challenges that come with trying to hold together a work life, a professional life, and then also a personal life as well, living in New York City. This conversation we recorded last August. It took me a little while to get some of these out, but I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. We ended up having this conversation on Kevin's roof in the middle of August around noon because both of our girlfriends were asleep, and it was really pleasant. I know Kevin, but I didn't know all the details of his family or personal life, and it was really nice to talk to him. So let's go to my chat right now with my good friend, Kevin Froleiks, and I'll chat with you again afterwards. All right. Yeah, I agree with you because staying indoors, I don't know if human beings were like designed for that.
No, that's why your eyes crumble after you're
right
staring at a screen all day, and why your posture gets all screwed up.
Yeah, like it's just like we're
neck muscles get all tight.
Devolving.
Yeah, we had like a big Code Red week where we were all working like 24/7 almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially the engineers, because we set a goal to finish something and just totally just didn't do it. So everybody had to be on high alert.
Right.
Even though Jared and I were just like, we're customer service. Our code red is when you guys make something that doesn't work, which is always, and then we make people okay with it. But then we ended up just like staying. We like spent the night at work and just like cleared out a bunch of emails that had backed up from customers.
Yeah.
We did like 110 each overnight for between midnight and 5 a.m. and then slept for 3 hours and then like woke up and showered in the gym shower.
Wow, that sounds like a startup sort of work schedule.
Kind of. I mean, that's the kind of. It was only for 3 days, and we only did that for 1 day. But it was after I had hosted a show for the Devil Cup.
Yeah.
Sarah had me host that, so I left work at a normal time, hosted a show, and then came back to work from midnight to 5.
Yeah.
It was a crazy day, and then like slept on a beanbag chair on the 7th floor.
Yeah, and that's like this never-ending grind that this city kind of necessitates.
There's something about New York that every job I've had is always like so high pressure and intense, and I think it's because if you don't make enough money, you will most definitely just you'll
fail.
You'll totally fail. Yeah, it's such a cutthroat.
Yeah,
city.
this city, and especially is like everyone's like ready to just like stab the other person over nothing, even something as menial as just if we were just like selling flowers on the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's just there's so many of every kind of business.
Yeah.
You know, that like if one falls, somebody else moves up, and so
yeah.
Whereas anywhere else, small towns, there's like one lawyer, one doctor.
Right. Does living in New York for like how long have you been here?
4 years.
Yeah, I just hit 5. Like, is there something about being here for a while that sort of makes you miss where you grew up?
Yeah, totally. Like I'm going back to New Hampshire next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's for a wedding one day, and then I'm gonna see my family on Sunday, and then head back. But it's now like I go back, and it's I'll fall asleep and just like be like I'll forget what it's like to not hear cars outside all the time. Like it's not that bad, you know, in Queens, but like we live on like one of the busier streets here, so like some mornings I'll wake up and there'll be a car, you know, some sort of car accident, and everybody's beeping their horn around it. It's like 6:30 in the morning. Nobody cares about when people may or may not be sleeping.
Yeah.
I feel like in general, New York is full of more self-centered people, in the sense that like people here have no problem just honking a horn at 6:30 in the morning, whereas like I remember like getting up early, like and driving like with my parents, and we'd have to get up at like 4 to like get to my grandparents' house or something like that, and it's like a 3-hour drive to Cape Cod where they lived, and just like there was still like a feeling of like we got to be quiet because it's so early.
Right.
And just like driving so slowly through the neighborhood just to like not wake anybody. It just like it's like built in to just like I don't know, something about knowing your neighbors makes you want to be more courteous to them, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I don't know. I
don't know anyone in my building.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah. Well, I think what plays into that is this idea that almost everyone everyone who moves here is pursuing like their goal.
Yeah.
Like their goal that they're ready to just throw everything else away for. And then I think that plays into that sort of like a city full of narcissists and weirdos.
Yeah, and not even the people who are like born and raised here. There's I don't know. I feel like if you go anywhere, the people who are from that place have a weird sort of psychological
damage.
Yeah, but it's just different for each place. Like you go to like some weird southern small town, and there's gonna be some crazy like, you know, some like they don't know that the Civil War ended. Like there's always the one like the crazy racist southern town in the middle of nowhere that just like they're that way. And you go to places in New Hampshire where people are just like they've stayed in that town forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something about just like staying in the place that you're from. And then when you go somewhere, it's usually like unless you move from like a small town in New Hampshire to another similar small town in a similar state. But you're right. Everybody who moves here is here pursuing something because they think they got the goods.
Exactly. And there's nothing. Yeah, and you have to keep you keep having to tell yourself that, otherwise you just jump off a roof, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's good that we're recording this on a roof.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. This'll play well into the overall theme of like where I'm at lately.
Yeah. So
Kev.
now, what is your podcast, and is this it right now?
This is it right now.
Okay.
It's been happening for 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Good. Hey, folks.
I like to do this ambush start.
That's good.
Kevin
That's good.
Froleiks.
Yes. Oh, thank you for saying my name, Will Carey.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Well, I would do an intro for you
Got
as
it.
well. So what I was really interested in when we were talking about like the idea of these, like the small town and the damage that it would cause you.
Yeah.
So what's the damage that your hometown caused you? Like where are you from? Where you're from?
Bow, New Hampshire, which is right outside of Concord, New Hampshire. Our big claim to fame is that you get off exit 1 and there is the famous Bow Mobile.
Oh yeah.
It's just a mobile station.
Just a mobile station.
But it's I don't know why they called it the famous Bow Mobile. I think they were just like, we can call it whatever we want, so why not call it famous?
Yeah.
It's also, if you're driving up 89 or 93, whichever highway you're driving up.
Yeah.
It's right where they intersect. So, excuse me. It's like the last chance you have to get gas for about an hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's famous. Is a lot of people stop there, they get gas, and then they go drive to Vermont or wherever they're going.
Yeah.
And even if you looked up mobile, or if you looked up Bow Mobile in the yellow pages for our town, it would say "See famous," and you would have to go to famous Bow Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our claim to fame.
Yeah.
I don't know what sort of damage Bow, New Hampshire caused me. I don't think it was. I mean, it's also because like whatever it was, I'm not aware of it because it seems normal.
Right.
But I know, I know that there's something about like moving from what you're comfortable in to somewhere as completely different as New York.
Right.
You know, like there's just something that it gives you more perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like you meet so many different people here from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And like even the people I work with are from all over the world. Like
Yeah.
I work with a guy who's from Sri Lanka. I work with a bunch of people who are from India, China,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever. And you just hear like I'm just like, oh yeah. No, it was tough in New Hampshire because you had to drive like an hour to get anywhere. And then like the guy from Sri Lanka will just be like, oh yeah, that's really tough. We didn't have milk.
Right.
And just like things like that. So you just kind of, I don't know. That's why I'm glad I moved here because
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of helps you empathize with the rest of the world, and even like the rest of, like so many people are struggling in this city right now.
Right.
Like so many people around us right now are have no food in their fridge. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the whole small town thing. One piece of damage that definitely came up from high school was that all of us were treasures. All of us were the best.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know if it's a damage, but it was definitely we all kind of had this false sense of confidence.
Right.
For just being we were all just golden children. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was.
You didn't have like a moment where you were shaken early and you got perspective on it. Because I never really, I don't
Not
know.
really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a school of 600, 600 or 700 at most.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody. It was big enough that like. It was big enough that it was a 2-story school. Like it wasn't like a middle of nowhere. Like we weren't in the middle of nowhere. It was just small New Hampshire town, and so like, it was small enough. I'm trying to think of how it was big enough that I didn't know every single person.
Right.
But it was small enough that like everybody, or I don't know how I'm saying that. Everybody could sort of have their own thing. There was enough things available that everybody could sort of have their own identity. So like some people would go and they were just like, oh, that's Mike. He's really good at basketball. He's on the basketball team. And then there's like, and here's Kevin and all of his pasty friends who were in the music corner, and that was it. And I pretty much just lived in the music wing for that entire time.
Right, because music was your first thing. Before comedy was.
Yeah, from like age 10 through junior year of college.
Mm-hmm.
So 11. What's that? 11 years?
Yeah.
Too many years.
No, because my music was my first thing too.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I played trombone in fourth grade and didn't really take to it.
Oh, really?
And then it was guitar, and then eventually I had enough bad experiences with band members that I was just like, I need to do something where that doesn't involve other people.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was, and I don't know if it plays into like because I'm an only child and I'm just attuned to being a loner weirdo.
Sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I know we might have talked about this a bit before, but like, what sort of home did you come from? How many, like, what were your
7 parents?
7 parents?
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
All right, 7 parents. That's interesting.
had a like honestly like it's so boring how status quo my family was. Just my mom and dad still together, married since they went to high school together. They were each other's prom date. They got married after my dad finished college. They've been married since 1984.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they got married. They got a dog. They kept the dog alive. They planned to have me. I was born in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
They planned to have all 3 of us, as far as I know.
And you have 2 brothers?
I have a sister, a younger sister, and then an even younger brother.
And the younger brother.
Yeah,
so you're the
3
oldest.
I'm the oldest. My sister's 3 years younger than me. My brother's 5 years younger than me.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, they had my sister was born, and then they were like, well, they were gonna stop at 2, but then they were like, well, let's try to make 1 more so that Kevin can have a brother, which is kind of messed up because they were just like they didn't think like let's give Brenna a sister. So I don't know what that was about, but then they had 1 more, and that was my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with someone. I forget who. It might have been someone at work, but we were talking about like how now that we're all adults, like he was going through this where he was trying to sort of reconnect and establish friendships with his siblings. He was a middle child, but like his brother was just old enough that they never really hung out when they were younger. And his sister was like closer in age, but he just never really paid attention to her.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to correct that now that when he's 23 or 24, he's younger than me. But and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to do the same because like my sister and I don't always get along. We're civil now, but we always kind of fought. All 3 of us also lived like our totally separate lives. Like my brother was total jock. I was total just like music nerd.
Uh-huh.
And then my sister sort of floated around between different groups. Like she was in chorus, but she was also on soccer teams and sort of did her own thing. So like my brother was just young enough though, 5 years, that we were never in the same school.
Yeah.
Except for maybe like early elementary school when he was in kindergarten and I was in like 4th grade.
Uh-huh.
That was like the only time we were in the same school. So like now, 3 kids, 2 parents.
So you kind of okay, so you're like you're the artistic weirdo type of
totally.
of your clan.
Totally. And it doesn't even really make sense because nobody else in my immediate family at least is that way. The only person who was really even close to that was my grandfather, my dad's dad.
Uh-huh.
He was like a total music nerd and just like played clarinet and flute his whole life and saxophone.
Which are all the things you played too, right?
Yeah. No, like I started playing clarinet. The only reason I picked clarinet was because I knew that my dad and my grandfather both played it when they were younger, so I was like 9, and I was like, yeah, well. But then I played a bass clarinet when I was 9. I was like, oh, I want to get really good at this. And my dad was like, we already have a clarinet in the basement, so we're gonna make you play that.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. And then so I just played that forever. And then my grandfather was like, oh, you should learn flute and saxophone because they're similar fingerings. And then so I got really bored with clarinet in high school, so I would just learn like every instrument.
Yeah.
And I would do like the orchestras for the musicals, and like a lot of those parts are like it's not for just like one instrument. It's for like you play tenor saxophone, alto saxophone, and flute or something. Like they're all grouped together by like what instruments are similar. So I remember I had like my tenor saxophone that I had like on a strap around me, and then I had like the clarinet that I would put like on my lap, and then I had a bass clarinet next to me, and I had to like switch between them. I think it was for Annie Get Your Gun.
But classic.
Like, but I just had like 3 instruments all around me. It was fun.
So you were playing in orchestra, playing for the school musical, playing in the pit, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Concert band, jazz band, pretty much any of the music stuff I would just get involved with in some way. I usually had other friends who would like push me in to do each one.
Yeah.
But it was always fun, and like it was just fun to hang out and do that kind of stuff. I did one play sophomore year of high school, and then I was like, that was fine, but I never need to be in front of people again. And then
so you acted in it?
Yeah, I had 7 lines in Man of La Mancha. And then I did that, and it went well, but I was like, I have no desire to ever do a play again. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just stuck to being in the orchestra for the next 2 years.
What's Man of La Mancha about?
Man of La Mancha is a musical adaptation of Don Quixote.
Okay.
It's really it's actually I still like listen to the soundtrack to it because I love all the music from it. It's all like Spanish influenced orchestral type of things.
Right.
The overtures is a really cool piece of music, but then it's like Don Quixote, or it opens. It's all about like the Spanish Inquisition, and like the opening is like Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, is like being arrested and he's put in a prison during the Inquisition, and the other prisoners are like deciding if they're gonna mug him or not, and so he basically he uses all of his like he has all of his like costumes and props and like has scripts, and he basically puts on a play. The whole thing is a play within a play.
Yeah.
So like the guy who plays Cervantes like puts on a costume and he's Don Quixote, and then he like steps out to the like a front stage, and like that's where the Don Quixote story happens.
Right.
And then like in between each act, like it goes back to the prison.
Oh, okay.
And there's like a trial going on in the prison for if they're gonna beat the shit out of Miguel de Cervantes.
Right.
It's really cool. And then the actual Don Quixote story is like he's just an old man with some sort of Alzheimer's or dementia, but it was written in the 1500s, so like whatever it wasn't diagnosed. He just goes crazy and decides he's going to be a medieval knight, and he just goes out on adventures and he fights windmills because he thinks that they're giants, and he falls in love with a prostitute who he thinks is some like beautiful princess.
Right.
And it's just a lot of that kind of stuff, and then his family they're the bad guys, quote unquote, but really they're just like trying to get him to realize that he's living in a fantasy, and that they're trying to bring him back. So like they're the bad guys, and like at the end like there's like a face off between Dr. Carrasco, who's just like the mental health professional of the 1500s, and he like dresses up as like the Black Knight from Monty Python basically, and then, and convinces Don Quixote that he's just Uncle whatever, whoever he is, and then it's a really cool story. So I played the Duke, who had 7 lines in all the prison scenes, and the way it was supposed to work was that everybody in the prison also played a character in the Don Quixote play. So, but I couldn't sing, so I just played what Dr. Carrasco would have been in the prison. They just split it up.
Right.
So I had 7 lines, and then Patrick, who was a much more talented singer, did all the musical parts.
Yeah. So that's interesting that we're pursuing stage careers now, but plays are not the thing. Because I did theater for a long time too, and then I just kind of I don't know why I think I found that committing to a project, unless you absolutely loved it,
it's 3 months of your life.
3 months of your life. Like I did I did like a children's play, which was super fun, but it's just working with kids I found to be very, very difficult. But then also you're doing, it's not like emotionally maybe not emotionally satisfying or like art, but it was enjoyable. And
I mean, I did enjoy it to a degree because I liked hanging out with, for the most part. There were some theater kids that was just like, oh, you are draining. You are the most draining person. But like there were some people that I liked hanging out with, and I liked that I got to see them every day. But it was like 3 months of just every day after school, and it was worth it. And like at the beginning, I'd never been on stage before,
right? So
I was terrible. Like I would turn my back to the audience, and I would just I had no idea how to be on stage. And so I remember there was this girl, I can't remember her name now, but her sister's name was Amber, and I remember her because she was very nice, and this sister was not Megan. She was not a nice person, and she would just like publicly shame me for not knowing how to be on stage. So like she would like go out while I was like working on lines and physically turn me on stage so that I wouldn't turn my back to the audience or look down or like yell at me whenever I got a line wrong. And I was like, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's like February, and then by like May, when the play actually went up, like I'd figured it all out, and like I had to teach myself how to yell. All 7 lines, I was very quiet, didn't talk to anybody, and all 7 of my lines had to be yelled angrily. So I would practice in my parents' basement, just yelling the lines so that I could just get used to yelling. And by the end of it, like the theater director was like, "That was great. You're the most improved person I've ever worked with." Like she had like no notes for me, and I felt good about that. And I was like, but I have no desire to ever do this kind of thing again.
Yeah. But was that enough of a spark to get you interested to do other types of performance?
It might have been. I don't know. Like I was always like a comedy nerd as well, and there was like a handful of us that like would watch Comedy Central specials every single Friday, like all the half-hour Comedy
all
Central
the half
presents
hours
and stuff.
Which were the ones that you remember?
I remember
Like
Louis C.K.'s like when he's in the suit and it's like late
Yeah.
90s, early 2000s Louis when he's still doing all the like goofy one-linery type things.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Todd Barry's 2 half hours. I remember Frank Caliendo just doing impressions. I think the first ones I saw were Adam Ferreira and Pablo Francisco's back to back.
Oh yeah.
And I think I taped them when they came on the next
Mhm.
night, and I just like watched that tape over and over again. Well, I remember like Brian Regan and Louis Black, Jim Gaffigan. It was a lot of people. It was weird. Like after a year of just like every Friday, I would just watch so much comedy that like it got to a point where I could just like tell when I'd be like, oh, this guy is a really good comedian and he's gonna matter at some. And it was like young
Yeah.
Gaffigan.
Right.
I don't know. I just like
back when he wore glasses.
back when he wore glasses and had he had so many great glasses bits too.
Yeah, so many great glasses.
I'm gonna
bits.
kick your ass. Just,
Yeah.
But
Right.
I would just watch so much comedy and I would just quote it like on the bus and just like found it so funny. And like I remember like in 8th grade like trying to write stand up. I don't think I ever shared it with anyone. It was like really dumb bits about like
Mm-hmm.
oh, when you're on the school bus and just whatever 13-year-old me was whatever his life was.
Yeah, I did. I had lots of like wry observational bits too before
Yeah.
I did stand up when I was working at a calendar kiosk for Walden Books.
Oh, yeah?
and I would write like stuff about the Anne Geddes calendars with all the like babies and like
Oh yeah.
and like cantaloupes and things like that. So what do you remember like being what do you remember like attracting you to stand up initially?
I don't know. I'd never really seen stand-up. I do know that when I was younger, I did not have an attention span for movies that were not comedies.
Right.
Like with like Disney cartoons and things like that. Like I watched all those sorts of kids movies, but like middle school when I started like branching out of all the like little kid movies, I really had it had to be funny or Planet of the Apes for me to have any sort of attention span for it.
Right.
Like I'm trying to remember like what kind of stuff I watched. I remember the first time I saw Airplane and just thinking it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And just like movies like that. My friend Patrick, who I grew up with, different Patrick, a lot of Patricks in New England.
Yeah.
But my friend Pat, his family was really into like Monty Python and Woody Allen. So like I saw all of those like Woody Allen, like the early comedies,
Right.
and like all the Monty Python Flying Circus episodes. I would watch at their house, watching like the public access channel in New Hampshire on Tuesdays. It was British comedy night, so it would just be like Fawlty Towers and Flying Circus and Keeping Up Appearances, just like all these like crazy Britcoms, and I would just watch those and just thought they were so clever and funny. And then one day, like I turned on Comedy Central to see like if like Airplane or Blazing Saddles was on, and
Right.
and it was Friday night stand up, and I'd never seen stand up before, but I was like, oh, this is just one guy talking. And
Yeah.
I think it was like I think the first one I ever saw was Pablo Francisco, and he's just so animated and
Yeah.
big with everything, and he has like the Little Tortilla Boy was the closer where he just does this
Yeah,
whole movie
I
trailer with
remember that
Arnold
bit.
Schwarzenegger being a guy who sells tortillas on New York.
Yeah,
It's just and it's just ridiculous. And when you're 13, it's just like this is an adult man just acting ridiculous. And then I just ended up watching like all 4 hours of half-hour specials that
Right.
Friday, and that was what I would do every single week. And then like I found out that other people I knew were also watching all comedy, and so we would like tape them
Yeah.
and then bring them in and watch them during lunch again.
Oh, that's so cool.
So like I remember the first time seeing Dane Cook's half hour.
Yeah.
And I'll still watch that sometime and be like, this is just like the best half hour that he ever put out.
Yeah.
Like it's
no, that first half hour was really solid.
it's insane. Yeah.
And there's a reason that launched him to,
Totally,
to
yeah.
how big he got.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen his newest special, Troublemaker?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
I was kind of disappointed because he'd been sort of out of the public eye for a while and like
Right.
had so much backlash. And I was really, when he said like I'm coming out with a new special, and it had been so many, and I've heard him like on podcasts or like on other interviews or
Right.
like print interviews or whatever, and he's so self-aware. And actually, like I totally like got on the bandwagon with the fuck Dane Cook
Yeah.
thing. Like he was so funny, but then like all of his movies were god awful. All of his specials kind of, were just him jumping around and not so much,
Right.
about the actual like writing of the
like
jokes.
the writing jokes. Like there'd be a handful. Like
Sure.
I think from Rough Around the Edges, the Civil War flute player.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
like
some
things like that. But yeah, like it became too overly reliant on act outs and what you need to. I guess that's what you do when you're filling like a Madison Square Garden or a place like that.
Yeah, there's a reason why like Todd Barry isn't doing Madison Square Garden.
Right.
It's, you got to be someone big. That's why I like the Azizas and it's amazing that Louis did when Louis C.K. was doing Madison Square Garden. I'm like, that's such a strange choice for. He's not physical. He doesn't really jump around that much.
Right.
But then like Dane Cook, he's always like so self-aware and like knows that people have sort of vilified him, and he knows like why.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, this special might be like his, like coming back and just like addressing all the crazy shit about, and it was really just like more of the same. And so I was like, you kind of missed the mark, because I know he has all these thoughts and feelings, and he kind of just like reverted back to the old. Like it was good. It had some good bits, but
to me it described like the relationships of some of a celebrity trying to date in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
which I've never.
There's a lot of dating jokes.
Yeah,
and a lot
which
of
I've never really been. I've never been to Los Angeles. I've never been to Los Angeles, but just from what I've gotten from like, I don't know, reality TV or just listening to people talk, it seems like such a very odd vibe. And I don't know if necessarily New York is better, but it's different. LA seems at least relaxed about the way it is.
Maybe
I don't know if it's the nice weather or the water.
I think nice weather definitely helps. I feel like here, it's like I've never seen Game of Thrones, but it's got like starting. We're about to hit September, and everybody's gonna start having that winter is coming attitude.
Yeah,
and you just see people starting to get angrier and angrier, and then by the time February comes around, we're all monsters.
Yeah.
Whereas in LA, it's always relatively nice, and you got to drive, but
Yeah, and in August is like the only time I think people in New York really become monsters. That's where it gets like super, super humid. And like you get those like
right now.
You get those like do the right thing kind of days.
Yeah.
So was stand up the first thing in comedy for you, man? Or was
that
it?
I did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
was stand up like the first thing that was like I'm gonna do comedy and I'm gonna do that? How did you?
No. So.
Get into it?
So this so all right, so I also like I loved watching like SNL, and like like my parents were big SNL fans from like 70s 80s era SNL, and so like I started watching it in the 90s when it was like you had Adam Sandler and like Chris Farley and just like Phil Hartman, all these people that like Phil Hartman and Chris Farley just were like huge influences on me, because they're so like both of them are really big, but like Phil Hartman's so like concentrated and calm, whereas Chris Farley's just like out of his mind insane.
Right.
So like I had like a real appreciation for like sketch comedy stuff. So in college, I tried to get into improv because there was an improv group on campus, and I really liked them. I thought they were really funny. They thought I was not funny enough, so I never got in.
Right.
I think I auditioned 2 or 3 semesters in a row, and like I got a call back once, and then but like never got in. And then our friend Corey, Corey Nachman, also from Bow, New Hampshire. Never really hung out with him. We knew each other since we were 12. Never really hung out, and then in college, ended up living in dorms that were right next to one another. And so I was leaving my dorm room one day, sophomore year of college, and saw him, and I was just being polite, just being like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm setting up for the student activities fair," and just being polite. Really didn't know him, didn't really give a shit about what he had to say, but I was like, "Oh, what group are you starting?" He's like, "Oh, or what group are you in?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm running a sketch comedy group." And I said, "I didn't know we had one." He's like, "It's brand new. This is like our first day of like recruiting for it." And I was like, "I would like to do that," and so I signed up for it. And then went to a few meetings, and it was a bunch of idiots talking about how great it would be to maybe write sketches, and then nothing would get done. So I just stopped going to the meetings and said, "This isn't for me." I was still very much into music, so like didn't dawn on me that like I would ever want to pursue comedy at all.
Yeah.
And then but the guy who was like co-president of the group with Corey was in one of my music theory classes, and I had to see him 3 days a week. And every single day he would be like, "You coming to the meeting this week?" And he would just guilt me into it. And for 6 months, I would just be like, "Oh, yeah." And then I just wouldn't go. And then it would get really awkward. And then finally I was just like, "Okay, all right, I'll go." And I went. And most of the people that I saw that first time around were gone. And there were like new people, and just like immediately had established this connection. That's where I met one of my best friends, Tim, who you've met, because he helped both of us move to this neighborhood, essentially.
Yes, he did.
But he showed up, and I was like, who the hell is like? If honestly, like if I'm Phil Hartman, not in talent, but just in temperament and being very subdued, he was like the Farley to my Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
So like he was like this big, loud, just big personality kind of guy, and he was just like immediately just like really funny, and we just became really good friends. And so like mostly because I met him, that like, and he told me, he was like, oh, the only reason I kept coming back to those meetings is because I met you and you seemed like you were taking it seriously. And I was like, I only came back because I thought you were taking it seriously. And so then the guy who was president got really angry at everybody. Or I think I took over a meeting once because he just like was like, you guys don't do anything, and he just walked out.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, why don't we just sign up for the next student activities fair to perform? And everybody wrote one sketch. I was like, guys, we only have to fill 15 to 20 minutes. Like that's 4 sketches maybe.
Yeah.
And so everybody wrote one sketch. We chose what we thought were the best 4, and we did our first show. It was like a 20-minute show, and it went really well. And then every month, I was just like, every month we're doing a show. So now we have a deadline. And I'd never led anything before, but so I was like leading the sketch group. And then the other guy went crazy and just quit the group after our last show, which was a really good show. Like it was like one of the best ones we'd had. We'd only had like 4 shows, but it was like such a great show. And we had one senior in the group, and he was not funny.
Right.
And then that last show, he had one part, and it was like a lead in a sketch that I had written, and he just knocked it out of the park. Like we were all like doubled over laughing, and we were just so happy that was like his last moment with this group, and we were all just like, this is great. Let's go get some beer and party. And then he comes in, he was like, that show was terrible, and just like got angry at us, and then walked out, and then put me in charge like in front of everybody. It was really awkward.
And so you were anointed.
I was anointed basically, and then everybody. I was like, to me, it was like I can't imagine being in this group without Sean running it because it's his thing. And so I like helped get the group on like a schedule. I'm like every month we're gonna book a date. We'll write sketches. We'll rewrite them. We'll practice 2 or 3 times a week. The week before the show, we'll practice every single day.
Yeah.
Which was something I learned from doing that one play in high school. Was you got to have the Hell Week where you just every single day you're running
every single day, just that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I'm familiar.
Yep. And so like we did like a full semester of just like me running it, making schedules, making sure that people were coming, and like advertising wherever you could on campus. And we got our act together. We got into a rhythm of like making shows regularly, and everybody like had the common goal. And then I was like, cool, guys, I think we've fixed our problems. Let's tell Sean, and then Sean can come back and run the group. And all of them were just like, fuck Sean. Sean left.
Right.
Sean could have helped to make it. You're the only one who made it better. And I felt really uncomfortable because we took a vote, and I was like, why don't we vote on it? We'll do silent ballot. And I voted yes, let's let him back, because this whole thing was his idea, and everybody else said no. And so I was like, I guess I should be the one to tell him, and I went and had lunch with him, and I was like, so I have good news and bad news. We voted on whether or not to let you in the group, and the good news is I said yes. And the bad news is I'm the only one who said yes. Yeah. And he was just, he was like very heartbroken. He was like, I kind of screwed myself over, didn't I? I was like, yeah, you did. And that was just the last he ever had to do with it. Every now and then he would like come and watch a show, and it'd be really uncomfortable. Because he would just watch and just be like, man, this isn't that great. Even though like certain sketches were just getting like huge laughs.
Right, huge laughs.
Just really great. And I mean, that all being said, most of our audience were like friends of ours, and like it's like college friends. So it's not like I thought we were all geniuses, but like we were. There were no rules. It's not like in New York where like you have a UCB teaching people how to write sketches. Everything we did was self-taught. Like I recently took a sketch class.
I wanted to ask you that. Like what kind of stuff were you doing in college? And then like what are some of the things that you like learned? Because sketch is like an alien world to me. Like I don't know how to I can perform sketch. Like I'm not good at writing sketch.
It's tough, and like in college, like I think about this all the time. Like what a gift it was to have no direction in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I remember going to a Borders bookstore. That's how long ago this was, kids.
Right.
Went to a Borders and just because I basically, that first time when I said, guys, let's just sign up for a show at the Student Activities Fair. Now we have a deadline, February, whatever. That's the date that we have to have 20 minutes of sketches ready. Everybody write one sketch. How hard could it be? And then like I left that meeting being like, I have no idea even where to start. And so I went to a Borders bookstore and looked at a book on sketch writing. And I read 3 pages of it in the store and said, "This is poison," and I put it back because it
Yeah.
was just like trying to explain how comedy works and like what the rules are, and I was like, and like the examples they gave were just so unfunny.
Yeah.
And it was just like, no, but it's funny because of this, this, and this. I'm just like, it's not funny because I'm reading it and I'm not laughing.
Right.
So I just like put that down, and it was like, I'm just gonna think of something. And I think the first sketch idea I ever had was I was driving. I had like a 40-minute drive to work. I worked in a greenhouse, and I was driving back to my parents' house. And like on the way, my mom had called me, and I don't know why. When you drive for 40 minutes to and from work, you have a lot of time to think, and you go down a weird rabbit hole of thoughts.
Right.
Which turns out lends itself very good for comedy.
Yeah.
So
just having the space to let
Yeah.
your mind wander.
Which is why it's hard to find time alone, but sometimes I'll just put headphones in and go for a half-hour walk, and that's when I'll think of that. I'll do it with the purpose of like writing jokes or sketches.
Right.
Because it's the only time I can like get it churning again.
Yeah.
And I, for whatever reason, I just thought like, oh, my dad's name is Keith, so Keith and Kevin are probably right next to each other in my mom's phone. Wouldn't it be funny if somebody's mom accidentally called the son instead of the dad for phone sex? I was 19, and I was so sex jokes were big when you're 19.
Oh,
And so,
absolutely.
And so I went
Our
home.
big thing was like gay jokes. Like,
Yeah,
just,
yeah, of course, yeah. And it was also like mid 2000s, so it wasn't totally, politically incorrect to do that.
Right.
We might have been we were a bit more sensitive to like race and sexuality, anything like that. We sort of strayed away from because there were we knew people who was like, I don't want to.
Exactly. You don't want to upset
My friend,
someone.
yeah, I was like, my friend's gay. I wouldn't want to do anything that like specifically
Right.
hurt him.
Yeah, I think and that's like I think sometimes people get away from that. It's like you're doing like the idea of comedy is to like make people laugh and
that's
to
why
make
I
people
really hate like shock
happy.
humor and edgy humor, quote unquote, and just like
Yeah.
cringe humor. I really hate all that kind of stuff because I'm just like, I don't know. There's like Jesselneck. I think he's really good at it, but some people I'm just like, it
Right.
doesn't sound like you're a character. Like I know that's not you, and I know
Yeah.
that it's been proven over and over again that the edgiest, cringiest comedians are the sweetest human beings in real life.
Exactly.
But it's like some of that, like it's
Yeah.
like Chappelle. Like there's the one guy who like didn't get the point of like the black KKK sketch.
right.
Like one guy who just loved the fact that someone was saying the N-word that much. Like
Yeah.
you have one person who just doesn't get it.
Who doesn't get it and ruins it for everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, that was like what sketch writing in college was. Like I wrote that first sketch and it went okay. And then it was really just like there was no rules, so it was just like whatever fucking stupid idea comes to your mind, just write it out. And I think our second show was like, in March, and I was like, we have a month to put this together. And I would just like after I wrote that first sketch and it got laughs, I just like sat down and just every stupid idea I could come up with, I would write like a 7-page in a Word document. I didn't know screenwriting formats. I just made up my own formatting, and it was just like Word document style.
Right.
I think I wrote the show was 13 sketches, and I wrote 12 of them, and I was in like
Fantastic.
at least 11 of them. And like I remember like friends of mine from high school were friends with other people in the group, and they came and they were just like, Kevin's really he's like taking over this whole thing. And like there were a lot of people who were just good writers, but like I just had like this manic obsession with just like every stupid idea. We're gonna write this out. Any dumb I had like a dumb idea for like one of them was like this couple. They have rats in their apartment, so they call an exterminator, and it's the Pied Piper.
Right.
But like, and then and it was, I don't know, just like dumb things like that. So it's just like this crazy German Pied Piper character just running around playing a flute. And I would write parts specifically that only I could do. So I was the only one who knew how to play the flute, so I would do it. I did a lot of that.
So you start playing to your strengths.
I did that too. Yeah. And sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would like write stuff, and I was like, oh, this person should be that. And sometimes I wouldn't even like write it where I would be the lead, but I would like write, even if it was the side character, it'd be like he would have like really funny lines, and I'd be like, that's the one that I want to do, because I would like write it with my, like the way I would say it, and I'm like, that's what would make it funny. And like sometimes people would be like, you always get the funny part, and other people would try to do it, and it just wouldn't sound funny when they said it. And I didn't realize that like that's what stand-up is you write it for your voice specifically.
Yeah.
But I did. So I ran that sketch group for 3 years of college, sophomore, junior, senior year, and then like had a nervous breakdown second semester senior year when I realized like, oh, I'm not gonna have this anymore. And then Tim Mallard again comes to the rescue by signing up for a stand-up contest, and I was so jealous that he just like did it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to start doing stand-up. It never really even occurred to me.
Exactly. I think a lot of people have that too. Like everyone's like,
Yeah.
how do you start doing stand-up? And you really just do it.
Yeah, you either find it or you don't. And
Yeah.
in New York, there's a million places. In New Hampshire, there really wasn't.
You
friend-
had like one place, right?
There was one place near our campus, and it was my friend Jay Grove, jgrove.com, New Hampshire comic. He was running a room in Newmarket, New Hampshire, at a bowling alley. It was like a bar and bowling alley, and he would set up a mic in the corner, and we would go there every month, and it was like a $50 prize for like best set on something. And me, my friend Rob, and Tim would go there every single month. And every month there was a new theme, so it'd be like music is this theme or sports, and you would have to write your 5 minutes. Or he didn't set a time limit until I started coming, because I would write these like 12-minute weird performance pieces.
Right.
Like when it was music, I would open with a haiku every single show,
Mm-hmm.
a new haiku. I would write a new haiku every day because I didn't know that comedians polish their act, and I would write new stuff for every single mic.
I went through that for a while. I was
yeah.
like, I will never repeat a joke.
Yeah, which is kind of good in the beginning because it helps you clean out the it's like when you dry
garbage.
fire a gun to just get some of the gunk out of out at the beginning.
No, I hear that.
Yeah, so I remember like the music mic, the music theme mic. I did 12 minutes, and the last 7 was me acting out. I made this like audio recording of. There's a plane going over.
Yeah,
everybody.
they're coming for us.
Coming at you live from LaGuardia Airport.
Yeah.
This podcast is getting too edgy, man.
Yes.
Jim Norton's in the plane. He's going to crash into us. He heard what I said.
Yeah, the entire Opie and Anthony crew is coming after us. Or I guess just Anthony.
Yeah. So like it was just me with a recording of an orchestra, and then people like there was like babies crying and like people like laughing at the conductor, and I played the conductor and just reacted to the weird sound effects, and it was received with polite indignation and yeah, it was dumb, and really we just went because we just wanted to win the money and then buy beer, and I think we only won once because there were actual New Hampshire comedians who were working on good jokes, so they would usually win, but then there was one week where it was just the 3 of us, and it was like one of us is going to win tonight, and we had a silent agreement that we were going to buy a bunch of beer and drink it all on that Tuesday night, and we did, and it was a good time. Yeah, so that was like the first time I did stand-up, and then like it came at just the right time because it was second semester senior year. It was right at the beginning of the semester, like January 2010, and I was just like, oh my God, I need to do more of this. And so just any chance I could do it on campus or going to open mics that I had heard about in New Hampshire, I was like, I need to keep doing this. And the thought being like, I need something to do once I finish college and don't have this sketch group anymore. So that was how I like started doing stand-up at the 3 open mics in New Hampshire. Yeah.
And when you started, you were like just sort of like, because the thing I admire about you, other than your ability to generate a lot of scripts and content in a bunch of different levels, is your sort of your delightful your like delightful surrealism and commitment to whatever you're doing.
Weird, dumb things.
To absurdity, because I was very absurd and sort of deadpan when I started, but I somehow I kind of moved away from that. Yeah. After a while.
Yeah. I used to. I mean, one of the big influences. Like, I was so scared to try stand up because I had never done any sort of performance alone, and even like with music, I remember auditioning on clarinet and just sweating, just like hated being the only one performing. And then I saw the Jim Carrey movie Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman, and I just like I'd never seen anything like Andy Kaufman before. And this guy was a comedian, quote unquote, and people were laughing, but they also had no idea what the hell he was doing, and some people hated him. And I just saw it in the fictionalized Jim Carrey version, but then watched like all the Andy Kaufman, like the Mighty Mouse, like the actual SNL videos and like all that. And I was just like, oh, I didn't know you could do comedy at people regardless of whether or not they like it. So I just sort of would come up with any crazy ideas that didn't even make any sense. I had, like, my original closer was I would open with a haiku and I would close with another poem, and I would say, but I'm gonna, anybody can close with a poem, so I'm gonna do this this is a death-defying stunt, and I'm gonna perform this poem blindfolded, and then I would pull out a blindfold and blindfold myself, and then I would start to do the poem, and then I would forget it right as I started, and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna have to check to my notes. I'm sorry, this is so unprofessional. And then I would take out the notes and I would stare at it with the blindfold on until people got that there was no way I can see the paper.
Right.
There's one video of it working really well, and it was like the second time I'd ever done comedy, and it was at college with a bunch of college kids who appreciated that kind of stuff.
Right.
Any other bar crowd hated it. They hated it so much. And then I would be like, oh, I just realized I can't see the paper with a blindfold. And then I would pull out like binoculars or a magnifying glass and stare at it. And then I'd be like, okay, got it. And then the poem was, I could talk for hours and hours about the importance of irony. And that was it. And then I would just walk off stage.
Yeah.
Very impersonal. Wouldn't shake the host's hand. Would just sort of stand there awkwardly. Just did a lot of weird stuff that I would like watch what comedians did and then try to find ways to do the opposite. And just like dumb things like that, because it was easier than writing jokes. Because I realized now I had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, trying to defy the form, and when you don't have much to say is easy. But I think people forget about actually learning how to do something first before you can mock it.
Yeah. And I didn't know, and I also didn't know that it was something that I wanted to keep doing. I just thought it was like I needed some sort of comedy outlet because it just depressed me so much to be graduating and to not have the group that meant everything to me. Being in that group was like, I majored in communication, but I put so much more effort into writing like 10 sketches per show just because that was like, and at no point did I think
that's like your relief, like you're getting some kind of a satisfaction.
Totally. And at no point did I think this is something I could do for a living maybe someday or something that's worth pursuing. It was just like, this is what I like to do.
Right.
And it's only now that I've gotten over the fact that like, oh, maybe I do want to pursue this to, I always had a problem with like things I do for fun and things I do for money never being the same thing. So it's only been recently that I've been able to like process the fact that like, oh, this is work that deserves and can be compensated for. So let's work on doing that. So like, so college was just like, write whatever. And then like I got here and like
and
Lisa knows screenwriting.
And you got here in 2011.
Yeah.
And
a year after college, because everybody in New Hampshire, there was a guy, Dave, who got very drunk every week and would just say, you're too good to stay in New Hampshire. And like filling do you want to talk about damage? Just so many people were just like, you're doing different stuff. You're not swearing. You're not being dirty on stage. New Hampshire was big on like rape jokes and just like joking. And so like, again, I would just be like, I don't want to be like that. So I'm going to do the exact opposite and do all these weird, like highbrow, artsy nonsense things. And they were just like, I think I had one joke that was, I could tell you guys a joke about reverse psychology, but you wouldn't want to hear it. And then just turn around awkwardly. And like, that was like the only one-liner I've ever written. And he was like, that joke is so good that you need to move to New York. And I was like, haha, good one. And he was like, if you stay in New Hampshire, you will get married and have kids and never leave. And you'll just be another one of these guys who's super talented, but does nothing about it. And so coincidentally, at that same time, my parents were like, you need to start paying rent if you're not going to get a job. It's been 6 months since you graduated college. What are you doing? And so I moved to New York with no job and barely any money and just made it work.
That's basically...
And got my ass kicked for years.
Yeah, I think I'm still getting my ass kicked.
You need to. There's some people that just like have their thing and they just do well, but then they don't get any better. So like, honestly, like I used to be so terrified of bombing, and now it's just like, can I get any laughs while I'm bombing? Yeah. And just like, you go up with new stuff, and it's just like, you can't be afraid to bomb, and it's okay. And so like, that's where I'm at with that now. And then slowly I've started to get back into sketch this year. Like I wrote for 3 like live half-hour sketch show things that friends were putting together. Yeah. And those were really fun. And then like me and Lisa go to notionfilms.com. You can see a bunch of things that we made.
Yeah, so you're an incredibly talented girlfriend.
Yeah, and she was the one who helped me with like screenwriting format and stuff, because I like sent her a script and she was like, "This is not how you write screenplays," and she like set me up with like final draft and like let me play around with it. And then like when we did The Worst Landlord together, Worst Landlord, everybody check it out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Worst Landlord. 37-part web series
that me and Kevin were both in that I think deserves more views than it has.
So do the 6 people that would watch it. It was like some people really, really enjoyed it, which is great.
That is great. It just even if that didn't like make us like celebrities, just the fact that we connected to someone, because that's a lot of what I do this for, is that I feel because I feel like I don't know if I necessarily feel alone, but I feel like maybe I can't relate to other humans.
Yeah, I feel like
And
that's a comedian thing.
and I feel like getting and
I've learned to fake it better now than I ever have before, but like
yeah.
it's taken I'm 27 now. It's taken me
Yeah.
up until like this past year and a half, which is also why moving to New York and comedy, like the comedy scene was just so unwelcoming to me, but not because they were mean, but because like I was just so weird and off-putting
Right.
that it was like I had to like force myself to like actually be around these people and just like
Yeah.
was not funny enough to like be talking
Right.
in their little circles.
And how did you force yourself to like become ingrained in the scene? Because I have a lot of problem. Like that's like one of my big problems is that I feel like I'm
Yeah.
not. I feel like I don't belong, so I feel like I get quiet and awkward. And I end up leaving when I should be like talking to people and meeting people.
Yeah.
Like I get so anxious. Do you have
Totally.
things like that?
Totally, yeah. And especially when I first moved here, because it's like being the new kid at school,
Right.
and here's all these comedians that know each other, and then it's hard to be the new. And I remember I still have it burned in my brain moving when I was 10 to a brand new school in a brand new state, and everybody had their fourth grade friends, and I was like the one guy, and it's like still so clear in my mind. And anytime I start a new job or like go to a new open mic where I don't know anybody, or like
Right.
if I'm at a show and I don't know any of the other comedians on the show, just having that same anxiety of just like I don't know anything that's going on and I need these people to like me so desperately.
Right.
So I'll have that kind of anxiety. But for me, it was like I didn't have a job when I first moved here, and so all I had was during the day I would apply for jobs, and then just to leave the apartment, it was like I need to leave. I can't just stay in here all day.
Right.
And I would go to like I was going to like 16 open mics a week and just eating shit on every single one of them.
Right.
For months and months and months, and maybe like a year and a half later, I finally the first time I got like an actual laugh at an open mic,
Right.
I didn't even know what to do. I was so confused because I forgot that that's what the goal was. Because also like early stand up for me was the same as like early sketch, where it was like whatever dumb thing comes to mind, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And in New Hampshire, people thought it was cute, and here it was like there's no point to anything you're saying. So it took me a while to get around that. But I would just like I would just go to every open mic because I was like, that's the only reason I moved here, and I'm putting myself through this hell of finding a job in the city when I have no experience. I had no relevant internships or anything that I had no resume.
That's basically what I where I was.
Yeah. It was hard. So it was really just like repetition of going around, and eventually like I met you pretty soon into it.
Yeah, I remember you being like one of the first guys where I was like, oh, a friend.
Yeah. It was you. Jared Reed was like a guy that I met. I was like, oh, we'll connect. Then there were some people that was like, oh, we have a connection and we're friends. And then that person became very popular in the comedy scene and just sort of left me to do their thing. That happened a couple times. I won't name names.
Okay.
I'm over it now, and I don't even think they do comedy anymore.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, but then like Lost in the Young, and like I met people that just like we like had some sort of connection and had friendships.
Yeah.
But I think it even took me until like 2 years of being here before like I remember most weekends if I wasn't out at mics or going to like shows at the Creek in the Cave or something, like I would just be home alone, maybe hanging out with my girlfriend, but for a while like she wasn't here, so like it was just very lonely and solitary and just like kind of sad. And then like 2 years of being here, I think Bryson Turner, who I was like, he was like the one guy that I saw. I would see him. He was just at open mics, and everything he said was so funny.
Yeah,
I
love that guy.
respected him so much, and I was like, oh, I just want to be that. I would see him, and I would just be like, I just want to have the ability to go up and just talk about whatever. He would be very loose, but it would just be so funny. I was like, I just want to be able to go up and just be funny like he would. And then somehow like through like another friend, like we sort of became friends, and it was so weird to like hang out with a guy I respected that much. And like he invited me over to hang out on a Saturday with like a couple other comics on his roof, and it was like I realized like on the train ride there, I was getting ready for it like you would get ready for a date, because I was like, oh my god, like, but like not just a date, but like the first date after like a year long of not having any dates.
Right.
Like just like, oh my god, this is like the first friend I've had since I broke up with my ex-friend or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And so like just like I don't know, it's kind of sad in hindsight, but like it took me a good 3 years to like finally like have good friendships and relationships in this city. And that's solely my fault of just like being that kind of weird loner. Not putting myself out there enough. And sadly it took for me to like start being funny to actually have any confidence in myself to like go to places and talk to people. And it's taken another couple of years. Now it's been 5 years of comedy, and it's only within like the last year and a half that I've had enough self-confidence to like be okay with bombing and to also not give a shit about what other people think.
Yeah.
So it's been a long journey to that, but like it was really just like I kept almost like people will say like stand up is like a compulsion for them, and that's the only thing that kept me in it was that I kept having the nagging desire to do it.
No, yeah, I'm kind of the same way. That's like the one. It was always like the one thing, even when it wasn't going well. It's like I feel right.
You feel whole doing it.
Yeah.
And I took a break this last year. I really hit a wall because I was doing a lot. Now it's good because like people will put me on shows and like things like that, and it's like, oh, this feels good. But then like doing open mics and just like the anger and the bitterness that happens at a lot of open mics, at least here, I'm sure it's everywhere though. Like, I just couldn't stand like the egomaniacs and like just people who were just like being really shitty to each other. It really irks me whenever like a comedian who's like maybe 5 or 6 years in and maybe they're really funny. Maybe they've gotten that first TV credit and they really just treat new comics bad.
Yeah.
And I've never been able, like a lot of my good friends are people who have been doing comedy like they're brand new to it, but I just like them because they're the only ones who have like that pure like enthusiasm for it still. And it's not like, I'm just trying, like some people, I don't know. And also I just remember so clearly being the new guy and how much it sucks.
Yeah.
And so I just like never liked being cliquey. When I hosted a mic, it was like, hey, if you're new, that's fine. Like, come here. I'm going to do bad for 10 minutes up front probably. So don't feel bad. I've always like tried to be welcoming because I know how much it sucks to be new to this city.
That's really good that you do that, because that would probably be the difference between someone continuing to do comedy and not doing comedy.
Totally. I would hate to be the reason somebody stopped doing something that they probably that they love. And honestly, if you don't love it, you fall out of it quickly here because you have to love it to put yourself through this much abuse.
Yeah.
But then it was hitting that wall that I was like, I think I'm going to stop doing open mics for a while. And I had like 2 months where I had like a show booked every single week. And I was like, I'm just going to do those shows. And I'm going to do.
How did that come about?
How did it come about?
Yeah, like, because I have a hard time. I'm trying to ask if I can do shows a lot of times, and I feel like weird about
sometimes
doing it.
I'll ask friends, but like I won't. I can't just like send a message out of the blue to someone to do a show. But like sometimes I'll hear of someone doing a show, and I'll be like, hey, can I do your show, whatever. Or sometimes they'll be like, hey, it's honestly like when you do well at open mics, people will be like, hey, do you want to do my show next week? Because someone will have. It was a lot of that. Where it was just, or because I was hosting a mic, people would be like, "Hey, thanks for hosting a mic. Do you want to do my show?" And it was a lot. It was a lot of that. But then like, so I just like stopped going to open mics because they made me really depressed.
Yeah.
And then that was what made me realize like that I like doing sketch videos again. So I started doing more sketch videos because then I didn't have to go to open mics. I was still writing and being creative and being funny, but I didn't have to deal with all the bullshit of waiting around for 2 hours to do 3 minutes of material and things like that. And then doing the live shows, it was like I had to go to rehearsals and writers' meetings. And that was just like good experience. And I was like, I like this. So it was like in June, I finally started getting back into doing open mics and like trying to write new material and things like that. But for a couple months, I just coasted on jokes I already had written. And just like all the writing I did was just tightening up those jokes.
Right.
So that's what I've been trying to do more of, honestly, is like unless something really comes to me, like this is a good joke, it's like let's write new tags and new like rewrite old jokes to make them better, because I have like 5 years of notebooks and a few of them, and like there's some good jokes in there that I just abandoned, and it's like let's go back and like finish the other half of those half-written jokes that are still relevant and that I still want to do.
Right.
So that's where I'm at now, and now it's like I only do I'll go to open mics with the intent of like this is probably going to bomb, but it's like I want to test something out. And like I just try to use it for that so that I don't, cuz for a while I was like addicted to just being out there, and it was like it was like any addiction, it just started like to take its toll mentally.
Yeah.
Cuz I was just like writing new stuff, going up, it would bomb, and I just be like I hate comedy. And then I just stopped putting myself in those places. So now it's like I just like cut back on it, and it's like I'll only do it to like work on stuff or whatever. And so it's just been from mental health purposes. It's like I'm going to take a break from that, but still like writing a ton of sketches and writing. I wrote a prequel to The Worst Landlord.
Which I will read.
I sent it to everybody who was involved with that, you, Pat, Lisa, and nobody has read it yet, which I'm glad that nobody's read it, because my immediate thought when nobody responded immediately was, oh, they hated it.
Oh, no,
I know. I was like, oh, I just thought all you guys hated it and that it made no sense because it's very weird.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what your original question was, but that's the answer.
It answered me, and then it answered it for me, and then here's like. And just to close up, here's like the last thing I want to ask you is kind of related to what we were talking about earlier is with balancing your life, I have a lot of problems with my life, with like balancing everything that's going on in my life. How do you manage to have what looks to me like a really strong relationship, still do tons of shows, put out lots of come up with lots of new ideas? How do you manage all of that, and what's like the secret to is there like a way that it can balance and that this can work? We can keep this working.
The secret is cocaine. You got to do a lot of cocaine. No, that's not it. Yeah, it's tough, and it's something that I know a lot of comedians struggle with, and a lot of them look at me. I have a reputation in at least like the group of friends on the scene that I am most active in as being like the dad of comedy, because like I go to work.
Right.
I work a full-time job. I'm like a manager at my job, and so like I have like actual adult responsibilities now.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, I had like pretty menial jobs. So it was like I read an article about William Faulkner, and he just said, like, if you want to be a writer, you have to have a menial job that pays the bills, so that you can focus all your mental energy on writing. So he worked at he was like a receptionist for a brothel in Mississippi, and he would his whole job was like, I had nothing to do, just make sure people don't abuse the girls and bribe police when they came by, and then the rest of it, he was writing As I Lay Dying and Light in August while he was working at a whorehouse, basically. So I had that philosophy for a while. It's like all my mental energy will go to comedy, and then all my physical presence will be at the job. But I wrote so many jokes on those jobs, and I would just take out my notebook, write, put it back. But now I have like an actual job that requires me to use my brain, because when you work in a job that doesn't make you use your brain for a while, it made me very depressed. And so I had a lot of issues with that that have gotten better since I actually feel like I'm providing some sort of value to a job. But yeah, I have that. I've had the same girlfriend for 5 years, and that's going well. Honestly, like, I think whenever I see like comedian friends who they have girlfriends, or female comedian friends who have boyfriends who just don't, like, they get into fights because it's like you're spending all your time on this craft that, you know, it's the thing you moved to this city for. Like, you packed up and you took a huge risk moving from wherever you're from to one of the hardest cities to live in, regardless of what you're doing. It's so competitive here. And honestly, like, I don't know if it's a secret. I don't know if it's like across the board thing. I think the one thing that makes it work for me and Lisa is that Lisa has something that she is equally passionate about outside of work. So she's like a producer full time and does like web video content and things like that. She hitched up with the right horse. She was like employee number 4 at like a brand new video production company, and now it's like over 2 years has like grown, and so now she's like the full producer for that.
Perfect.
And it's a very demanding job, and she's like in charge of everything pretty much. And sometimes she'll like work from home just so that she can have silence, so that she can put together like shooting schedules and like an entire like organization chart for all the editor. Like, it's crazy how much stuff that she does. And then on top of that, she does like editing and video like she encourages me to write more sketches so that she has something to film and edit and get better at that, because she's she has the goals to like, maybe write and direct, a feature film or at least a short. She like works on that kind of stuff. She has scripts that she's been, writing and rewriting for the last couple of years that she's like trying to turn into things. And I think like one thing that helps us is that I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to open mics, and she's like, good, get out of the house so I can work on scripts.
Okay.
And both of us, I mean, we have similar personalities in that sometimes we just need to be alone and recharge, and it's not because we hate each other, it's not because we're in a fight, it's just like I need to be by myself and work on something. So like it's hard to do in New York because apartments are so small, but like we live together and it's just us, so like we have a living room and then there's the bedroom, so like she'll work in the living room and she'll usually put on like a episode of a TV show she's seen a million times, and she'll like edit scripts while that's in the background, and then I'll go into the bedroom and work there, and we'll just be separate for like an hour or two and write stuff. That's for the girlfriend and comedy balance. I think that's like that's the only thing that I would say is the secret, is that like we're both equally passionate about things that we need to work on. So we're both okay with the other one saying, hey, I don't have time for you right now because I want to work on this.
Right.
And then that's when both of us at multiple times have been like, hey, can we do this later so that I can work on this? And it's like, good, I need to work on this, and we can just like work on separate things. And then it's also cool because she is very good at editing and understands video production stuff. So like I can write things that she can then make look nice. So like today we're shooting a superhero sketch up on this very same roof. And she knows how to make it look like it's not 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She'll make it look like it's midnight and that I'm a superhero fighting crime and things like that. So I don't know. And then the work life thing, that took me a while, and I fell out of doing a lot of open mics too because of how demanding the job was at first. But now it's just kind of like I've learned that like it might also just be like me maturing and just being like, okay, I need to like have like a job where I'm not embarrassed to like talk about it in front of people, because like when I worked other jobs I was just doing like customer service stuff, and I was just like like people be like, oh, what do you do? I'm like a full blah blah blah, or like I have a cousin who's a doctor, a cousin who's like a teacher, my sister's got her master's in education, my brother like finished school and like is now like has like a plan to like go into like the banking world and things like that. And so I really had nothing, and so like to my family it looked like I was just sort of free falling, and I was for a while. So it was just like, all right, I want to actually contribute something. So like I don't know, I do get some sort of satisfaction from that, just a different kind of satisfaction,
right?
And it's really just like that's its own, just like manage my time so that I can leave work at a reasonable hour and do all these other things,
right?
And then just I make time, make plans to anytime I get invited somewhere, like Lisa, hey, we'll go hang out with friends for this birthday thing, and then she likes most of my friends, thankfully, so it's like, okay, we'll hang out here, and then she's like, oh, my friend's in town, so we do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I don't know, that's really the only secret is just like I don't know, maybe I'm just wired to like process it better, and but I also struggled with it for a while, so it took a while to sort of learn how to balance work and then the girlfriend and then comedy, and that's another reason why I'm glad I got back into sketch writing, is because I can do sketch writing at home and not just be out all the time. So so it's just making sure that there's like a focus of where the energy is going right now. So if I'm at work, I try to make sure I'm at work and doing a good job there. And then like I leave and it's like, okay, let's take a half hour and process our thoughts and then try to be funny for 5 minutes, and then I'll go home and like try to write stuff, and then try to go to bed at a reasonable hour, because I used to not do that. And turns out you need to sleep and eat well to not be insane at work the next day.
Right.
So, I mean, that's... And I got lucky with like the people I work with are all about like work-life balance and just like being healthy mentally and things like that. So like they're just like, no, you just gotta like they'll just like call you out and just be like, let me help you like process this stuff better, or balance this, at least the work stuff better. So yeah, it's just using energy to its fullest.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if that helped or if that was just rambly nonsense.
No, it makes sense to me, and I am glad I have you as a friend, man.
Hey, I'm glad I have you as a friend.
Thanks, Kev.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, that's our show. As always, thank you for listening. If you want to subscribe to Between Awesome and Disaster on iTunes, make a comment, rate it. It would support me, and I would appreciate it very much. And if you want to check out, again, Kevin and I's web series, The Worst Landlord, it is on YouTube at youtube.com/theworstlandlord. And you can always check my website, willcareyisfunny.com, for my upcoming shows. And I will have links in the description for Kevin's website and Kevin's Twitter handle, because he's one of the funniest guys I know. And if you're looking for laughs, you should be following the project that he is working on. So it's hard. It's difficult to balance a life. And I make a lot of mistakes when I'm doing that, but I'm trying to get better. I still make a lot of mistakes, but I'm trying. So thank you guys for listening. I will see you next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care.